On the morning after Christmas. In one of the wealthiest neighborhoods of Boulder, Colorado. A 6-year-old girl was found dead inside her own home. There was no forced entry. There were no clear answers. And nearly 3 decades later, the most basic question remains unanswered. Who killed JonBenét Ramsey, and why has no one ever been charged? What began as a missing child emergency would become one of the most controversial, mismanaged, and endlessly debated cases in American history. And even today, investigators believe the truth may still be hiding inside her DNA. But before we reach that possibility, we must return to the moment everything went wrong. Because what happened inside that house on December 26, 1996, changed everything. The Ramsey family appeared to have everything. A large home. Financial success. Social status. And a daughter who many described as bright, confident, and full of life. On Christmas Day, December 25, 1996, 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey attended a holiday gathering with her parents, John and Patsy Ramsey. That night, the family returned home. By all accounts, nothing seemed unusual. But the next morning would rewrite their lives forever. At approximately 5:52 a.m., Patsy Ramsey made a frantic 911 call. Her daughter was missing. She told the dispatcher she had found a ransom note on the staircase. Not one page. Not a quick message. But 2.5 handwritten pages. Already, something felt wrong. Because kidnappers don't usually leave novels. The ransom note demanded $118,000. Not a round number. Not millions. But an oddly specific amount, one that just happened to match John Ramsey's recent Christmas bonus. Even more disturbing, the note was written using paper and a pen from inside the Ramsey home. It warned the family not to contact police. It claimed JonBenét had been taken by a foreign faction. And it promised death if instructions were ignored. But police were already on the way. As officers arrived, the house was not secured like a crime scene. Friends were invited inside. People moved freely. Rooms were walked through. Evidence was unknowingly disturbed. And while police searched the house for a missing child, JonBenét was already dead. They just didn't know it yet. And when they finally found her, the case would take a darker turn. Hours after the 911 call, John Ramsey was asked to search the house again. This time, he went to the basement. In a small, windowless room, he found his daughter. JonBenét's body was lying on the floor. She had been strangled. She had suffered a severe skull fracture. And investigators would later confirm signs consistent with sexual assault. There was no kidnapping. There was no intruder waiting for ransom money. The crime scene was now irrevocably compromised. The body was moved. The room was disturbed. And critical early forensic opportunities were lost. From that moment on, the case spiraled into confusion, suspicion, and public outrage. And soon, attention turned inward. As days passed without an arrest, investigators focused on the people closest to JonBenét. Her family. The ransom note's length. The handwriting. The lack of forced entry. All raised troubling questions. Media coverage exploded. Headlines speculated. Television panels debated. Public opinion turned harsh. John Ramsey. Patsy Ramsey. Even JonBenét's older brother, Burke. For years, the family lived under a cloud of suspicion. They were scrutinized, analyzed, and judged in the court of public opinion, even as no charges were filed. Behind the scenes, investigators struggled. The early mistakes. The contaminated scene. The pressure from the media. All of it made building a solid case nearly impossible. And yet, the most important evidence had not spoken yet. Because science was about to change the narrative. Years later, advances in forensic testing revealed something unexpected. DNA recovered from JonBenét's clothing did not match any family member. It belonged to an unknown male. This finding would become one of the most significant developments in the case. In 2008, the Boulder County District Attorney publicly cleared the Ramsey family. The reason? The DNA evidence. Officials stated that the genetic material suggested a third-party intruder, not a family member. For John Ramsey, this was validation long awaited. But for the public, it raised a new question. If the family didn't do it, then who did? And why hadn't they been found? Despite the exoneration, the case remained open. No arrests. No trial. No closure. The JonBenét Ramsey murder became more than a case. It became a symbol of investigative failure, of media frenzy, of unanswered questions. Over the years, leads dried up. Witnesses aged. Memories faded. Evidence degraded. But the DNA was still there. And now, decades later, it may finally speak again. In recent years, law enforcement has reopened lines of inquiry. The Boulder Police Department, under new leadership, has publicly recommitted to solving the case. And at the center of that effort is modern DNA technology. Techniques like genetic genealogy have already solved cold cases once thought impossible. Killers identified decades later. Names found through distant relatives. Truth uncovered from the smallest samples. John Ramsey has been vocal. He believes the technology exists. He believes the evidence exists. And he believes the answer is closer than ever. But authorities remain cautious. The DNA sample is limited. It may be degraded. Testing must be precise. Still, hope has returned. And with it, pressure. This is not just about one case. It's about accountability, justice, and whether time should protect the guilty. JonBenét Ramsey was 6 years old. She never grew up. Never had a future. Never had a voice. The responsibility now lies with investigators, and with science. Because if the truth is still out there, then silence is no longer an excuse. Nearly 30 years later, one question refuses to disappear. Not who was suspected. Not who was blamed. But who was responsible. Somewhere. A name may be hidden inside a genetic code. Somewhere. Someone knows what happened in that basement. And when that truth finally comes out, it won't just close a case. It will expose how close justice came. And how long it waited. Because time doesn't erase guilt. It only delays its reckoning.